All right, folks, welcome to Town Hall. This is a regular town board meeting going over an agenda that was set at the workshop with a couple of new items. The larger items for tonight have to do with a public hearing on a town code change and also a presentation by Dr. Bahari about chemicals. And that's pretty much the highlights. There's some important things on the agenda besides that stuff as well, and we'll be getting into it as soon as we can get there. I'm not seeing our town clerk here right now, so I'm going to do what she usually does and ask Esther Baitler to lead us in the pledge. Esther, thank you very much. And by the way, Esther's birthday either just happened or is coming up very soon, so happy birthday. All right. Let's assume that Charlie's taking attendance from afar, I guess. An announcement, just to start off with, that there will be a public informational meeting on the North Middletown Road pedestrian link to Pearl River Business District on Thursday, June 18th at 7 p.m. in the library. This is the big, almost $2 million grant for the sidewalks from around ShopRite all the way north and for other improvements that the town has and the highway department's managing. And also the going down into, I'm sorry, actually it has to do with the sidewalks on the south side of Central Ave and related improvements for pedestrian access. So please, if you want to find out more about that project, come to the meeting on Thursday in the Pearl River Library. I also want to note just giving out a shout out to the Parks Department for doing a great job and organizing a wonderful summer music series in Veterans Park. And the schedule for that is posted online on their website, and it's available on flyers, and everybody should come out and enjoy the free concerts. As I said before, we have a public comment period, which we use at the beginning of every regular town board meeting to invite comments from the public on any topic that seems important and relevant and you want the town board to hear about. That's a separate public comment from a public hearing, which we set for specific reasons. And so we're having one of those tonight too, related to the proposed town code change that I had initiated, and I think the whole town board agrees with more or less, but we're gonna wait to see if we get any more information related to the prohibition of certain uses in the town related to chemical production. So it's two separate hearings, so if you sign up for one, just be aware of which one you're in. I have the two sign-up sheets, and if I don't get your name, we can certainly do a raise of hands afterwards. Typically, our regular public comment is a 3-minute limit, and we use the clock here just to keep on track. And the public hearing is a 5-minute limit if you need it. And actually, nobody's yet figured out how to get this clock to go to 5 minutes, so we kind of wing it on that front. So we'll do the best we can. And so I make a motion to open the public comment period. Do I have a second?
Yeah, Andy, I suggest we do the presentation first, this way.
Before the public comment?
Yeah, I think so, because we had a presentation by Nelitech, and then we'll have Dr. Bahari's, and people can comment on either one.
That's fine by me, and we just want to make sure we get through all the items on the agenda. So, just to be aware, though, in terms of time management, there's no way we're going to do public comment and Dr. Bahari's presentation before 8 p.m., which is the public hearing on the town code change. So managing that is a little tricky. As long as we can agree right now, as we usually do, that when we say a public hearing's at 8 o'clock, if it starts a little later than that, that's okay. But of course, we wouldn't start earlier because we notified the public at 8 o'clock. So if the town board's all right with that, we'll do Dr. Bahari, and then we'll have public comment, and then we'll start our public hearing, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, guys? Yep. Okay, good. So I will invite Dr. Bahari to make his presentation, and I think he's got set up with some a PowerPoint, and our new screen and projector is being shown off as well.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm a longtime resident of Pearl River. I have a bachelor's degree from Harvard. and a PhD in chemistry from Columbia University. My experience is in industry as well as in academia. The town board invited me to provide a rebuttal to Michael Trupin's report, which was critical of my letter to our town dated May 20, 2015. The first view is an introduction to my presentation. I don't know if this, the pointer doesn't work very well. The first objective is to provide a rebuttal to the Trinity consultant letter from Michael Trupin, June 2015, reference 1. The next two bullets are basically a summary of my letter, just to give you some background, to show that the benzene emission claim of Analtech is not credible, it's undocumented, and then to show that the actual benzene emissions of the proposed plant expansion can damage the health of local residents. This is based on the emissions of the EPA, and the emissions are about 0.1 to 1% of the product. The details follow. The paragraphs refer to the letter of Trinity. The low end of the range of benzene emissions discussed by Dr. Bahari is 0.0016, the same as EPA, where is 0.0017 basically pounds per hour. The correction is that the low end of the EPA range of 0.1 to 1% emission of the amount produced is 0.0031 pounds per hour and not 0.00166. The calculation is shown below in note 1. This is a big error on the part of Trinity and underscores the thrust of their criticism. It appears there's a misunderstanding of the key issue, which is the amount of benzene emissions. Secondly, excuse me, I'm not too familiar with this. Secondly, they claim the catalytic oxidizer reviewed by Trinity has a control efficiency that it can be as high as 95.5%, but it's 98% in practice. However, in practice, the efficiency is more likely like 90 to 95%. And basically, if you look down below note 2, if you can read that, it's the fine print. Analytics catalyst oxidizer supplier Falmouth buys its catalyst oxidizer from Clariant, which specifically says it does not guarantee the efficiency of its control if it has been poisoned by heavy metals. And the key issue is the fine print. The Trinity claim here is that the EPA range of 0.1 to 1% benzene emission from production of petrochemicals has more opportunities for emissions than the Analytic plant whose source is biomass. The correction, that's not really true. The EPA benzene estimates refer to plants that reform hydrocarbons, CXHY, to benzene, C6H6. The Analytic plant reforms biomass cellulosics, C6H10O5, to benzene, C6H6. The Analytic reaction is more complex. The process has more steps and more chances for emission. Basically, the conclusion here is that the Analytic plant may emit an amount of benzene comparable to EPA estimates, or it may emit more, and basically the EPA range of 0.1 to 1% is reasonable. The next few graphs is how much benzene will the proposed Analytic plant actually emit. They claim it will emit 0.0017 pounds benzene per hour. The problems with the claim of 0.0017 benzene per hour are as follows. There's 7 of them, and you can go through all of them. It's lower than the EPA value. It's not documented. It's not verified. But I'd like to get your attention to number 4. Their emission rate was obtained by a simulation method and shown to be not credible in a letter to our town. It's reference 7. The simulation method is considered confidential, so it's really not quite credible. And then this 7th one, which is quite even more important, the quantity and type of chemicals, including BTX, entering the vent pipe is undocumented. Basically, this is critical. If the amount of material entering the vent pipe is large, the emissions will be large, independent of what the catalyst oxidizer does. The benzene emissions of Analtech are uncertain. Going to the next view graph, the Trinity objects to the volume of air 1 mile square by 6 feet high to discuss the toxic effects of benzene. The rebuttal, this is merely an example for explaining the toxic concentration of benzene if the EPA estimates of benzene emissions were considered in this volume. It's a paradigm, it's a model for clarification purposes. If we have one Sprite bottle of benzene dispersed in this 1 mile square by 6 foot high, the benzene concentrations would be in the toxic range. So then and then down there, the New York NYC DEC results were not very different. If the DEC assumes the same kind of emissions as the EPA claims, about 1%, then the results are not very different from what we get, as shown in the next view graph. And the dispersion modeling that Trinity invokes is meaningless because the amount of benzene in the plume rise is uncertain. If you don't know what you're putting in, how do you know where it goes, what it is? So how much benzene will Analtech emit? And that, in this one, the risk-based ambient air threshold from NYC, from DEC, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, are more accurate. That's their claim. However, the DEC air emission analysis report is questionable for the following reasons. The NYC DEC did not verify the Analtech claim of 0.017 pounds per hour for benzene emissions. At EPA level of 1%, the emission is 0.031 pound benzene, or 18.6 times higher than they claim. At this rate, the nearest neighbor could be exposed to 1.1 microgram per meter cube and not 0.059 microgram per meter cube, which is close to the toxic level of 1.3 microgram per meter. This damn thing doesn't work. The NYC DEC also did not consider a worst-case scenario of an accident where the amount of benzene emissions can spike. The only sure thing is accidents can happen. And the fourth one, which is even very critical, it says that NYC DEC claims that the Analtech proposed plant is trivial activity and therefore exempt from permits. This is not trivial, especially when the local residents include pregnant women and small children. Benzene is among the most toxic carcinogens known to the EPA. 132 pounds of BTX is not the same as 132 pounds of aspirin or Cheerios. This is not trivial. In conclusion, the DEC approval must be reviewed. I think there's something wrong here. Okay. Oh, my. The DEC letter of approval and air analysis should be reviewed. Going to the next one, Trinity claim, Analtech lawnmower calculations appear accurate. Trinity claims a closer analysis indicates that both Trinity and Analtech are mistaken. From 1990 to the present, car emissions have dropped drastically so that the Analtech emissions are above those of current cars and lawnmowers. I bring cars in because cars and lawnmowers, they go together. From May 14, 2015, letter from Analtech, we agree that benzopyrene is not benzene. Benzopyrene is a benzenoid and it's in exhaust. Like benzene, it is carcinogen. Benzene is the 6th most toxic chemical, and benzopyrene is the 8th out of 275. However, the main point is that in the May 14, 20 letter of Analtech, the lawnmower calculations are incorrect as they refer to the Gabelli's article, which was published in 1997 and is outdated. The Analtech emission compared to cars and motors is mistaken as shown in the, as shown in the next view graph. Here we show what happens from 1990 to 2012. The benzene emissions for cars in the blue one is about 0.075. The cars is the green one, is for the, that's item B, which is the Gabelli article. You can see there, the pointer doesn't work. Anyway, it's a 1997 article, but then since then, for various reasons, very, very important reasons, the emissions have dropped. The car drops to that low, and the lawnmower in 2012 is very low, both lower than the analytic emission, so that the lawnmower emissions were confirmed with a second reference, that item D under the lawnmower, the green one. You can see is there are two references there. We just want to make sure that everything we say is confirmed and clear. And then so basically it's a mistake for Analytech to claim that their plant will emit the same or less benzene than those of cars and lawnmowers. There's something else that's very important here. Local residents have a choice with their cars and lawnmowers. They can turn off their cars or lawnmowers and switch to electric cars and mowers to cut back on their exposure to benzene. However, Analytech does not provide that courtesy to the local residents. Their plant will emit unknown amounts of benzene 24 hours a day, 365 days a year continuously for them to breathe against their will. This is a bigger mistake for a democratic society. The next view graph is about objectivity. Trinity objects to the statement that their review was not truly independent. The response here is that I'm sorry that Trinity takes offense to the suggestion that the review was not truly independent. The Pearl River community takes offense to the fact that Trinity, as well as Triumvirate, approved the proposed Analytech project without verifying the benzene emissions. Also, the Triumvirate report did not even sign their report. So this is unscientific. Going to the next one, Trinity claimed benzene emissions at gas stations could be 0.007 pounds per hour. Rebuttal, there may be many sources of benzene emissions in Rockland County and the United States, but this is a poor excuse to produce 132 pounds of BTX per day and emit uncertain amounts of benzene in Pearl River. For example, there are tons of cocaine on the streets of the United States, but this is no excuse to produce more of it in Pearl River. All around the world, governments, including those of China and India, are earnestly trying to reduce the pollution, but Analytech wants to increase it. If one individual gets, in that view graph, if one individual gets leukemia or lung cancer on account of Analytech, the cost of the Gleevec or Avastin drug would be of the order of $100,000 a year, just 1 year. Will $17,000 more in tax revenue from Analytech pay for this? There's no economic, environmental, or moral justification for the Analytech project in a residential area. Analytech claims that the community does not understand them. In reality, the community understands Analytech, but Analytech does not understand the community. If Analytech cared, one more minute. If Analytech cared for the health of the community, it would make green biofuels, biopolymers, and bioplastics instead of toxic BTX from biomass in a residential area. In conclusion, the main objections of the Troopin Trinity were found to be baseless. My letter of May 20 to our town stands unchanged and is correct in its description of the Analytech project. The Analytech has not documented the key issue of benzene emission. The EPA documents are shown to be more reliable estimates for benzene emission than those, and these emissions can be health-based issue. As long as the amount of benzene emitted is uncertain, any claim to safety is uncertain. We agree with Trinity that the analytic estimates should be reviewed. However, we urge the analytic project be stopped immediately as far as it concerns to benzene production, and the whole approval process be reviewed by a suitable entity. Benzene is the among the most toxic chemicals known to the EPA, and there should be no mistakes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Dr. Bahari, thank you for your presentation. This might be a good moment if the members of the town board have any questions for Dr. Bahari. Otherwise, we'll move on to our next agenda item.
Dr. Bahari, can you send in writing where we can get the references for all, the references for your conclusions? Because it was mentioned in the documents, I don't have anything in writing. I would like to be able to look at these.
There are the references. I'd be happy to send them to you.
Okay, all right, that'd be great.
Yeah, and also just a copy of the presentation. Is it going to stay on the computer there?
No, that's my computer.
Okay, so we need a copy of the presentation. You can email it if you want. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Paul.
Just one quick question. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. You said twice in the presentation that it should be reviewed.
Yeah.
Reviewed by who?
Oh, by a suitable entity. I specified.
Excuse me, who's a suitable entity?
A suitable entity would be an entity that would be acceptable to the community.
Okay, but we asked the community to give us a suitable entity, so do you have any recommendations, or can you?
Would be happy to make arrangements for a very suitable entity, no problem.
Okay, that has the science to,
Right, you really need-
that's what we need, because this is very scientific. I'm not following it all, so I agree with you, but I need the name or more specific, suitable entity.
Right, you need basically, the both engineering issues and environmental issues. You need someone who is familiar with both areas.
Okay, thank you. So if you could do a little research or someone and give us that suitable entity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bahari. I look forward to getting the documents, because that was a lot to absorb in 15 minutes. So, I look forward to it.
Any others? All right, so we'll have follow-up from you, and we appreciate the information. It's a little, we've had presentations for and against, a lot of scientific information shared, and we appreciate your contribution. I do personally, and thank you for that. And I think it's great that everybody has a chance to hear both sides, essentially, even though, as we all know, the analytic issue is in the courts right now, and the town board, what we need to do along with our building department is also focus on a number of other issues related to its approval by the planning board, which has to do with pollution monitoring, has to do with making sure our land use boards are well-staffed, and the proposed legislation on the town code, which we're talking about tonight. So to some extent, I think that we have work cut out for us beyond what you've just presented. Go ahead.
Do you think you could come up with more than one name, like a couple names that you could put out there that the community would be acceptable to the community, Like,
Yeah, I mean, look, there are many scientists at universities in environmental science, and they would comment on this. They would have basically, look, we have names. I was at the reunion of my wife's this weekend. I just came across a few of them.
Right, so you'll convey to the board the contact information that the councilmen have asked for.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I'd like to take some notes.
Okay.
that's it.
You don't have to do it on the spot, just,
No, no.
I send it
Right.
to you.
of course, of
Now,
course.
we have some great scientists right in the backyard, Lamont Doherty. Is there anybody there you could think of? Not right this second, but maybe we can utilize some scientists that are local, possibly.
I think it's very important that the public ultimately get clarity where there's been uncertainty as for the safety issues involved. And it is definitely complex, and, you know, there's been a lot of concern and questions, and the information that's been provided, I think, has been helpful. But, you know, as we all know, the project was approved, so we gotta kind of see where it goes in the courts, and also we have work to do as far as the pollution monitoring, which the town is in charge of right now. And so that will certainly be the focus, and maybe the information that you've provided and the other contacts that you have could be helpful with that as well. Not to mention the fact that we are undertaking a review of our town codes and the performance standards specifically, and we could kind of use all the expertise possible, because we want to make sure our town code safeguards the public health. And that is among the next topics that we need to talk about. So if with the permission of the town board, I'd like to move on to the next item on the agenda. Yeah. Right now, well, what we had said before, which I thought everybody agreed to, was that we would do the public comment before the public hearing, knowing that we're going to get to both. Isn't that was what I suggested? Is that not what you were nodding your head to before?
You suggested that. However, if we had ended the presentation at 10 to 8, you can do the public comment from 10 to 8 till 8 or 8:05, but you still should have the public hearing right around 8 o'clock. If you start public comments,
It could go on for a while, that's true.
yes, it could.
Okay, so I need to know the will of the board. Do you want to do the public hearing first, or you want to do public comment
The
first?
The public hearing is on this anyway, so it
Right.
doesn't make any
Yeah.
difference. So
Well, I think we have people talking about other issues in public
protocol-wise,
comment.
you should do the public hearing first, which is still on BTX.
Is everybody all right with that? Go on to the public hearing? All right, you know what, you feel strongly about it. We're going to get to everything tonight, one way or another. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. Thank you from Tom Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have you got that, Charlie, the motion in the second? I know sometimes it flies by a little fast. So we're having a public hearing on a proposed revision to the town code, which has been published and circulated to the media, and it was discussed before in town board sessions. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at it. There were copies on the town website, and essentially it is the town code has a list of prohibited activities in the town of Orangetown. Of course, it has many prohibitions in it, but this particular section applies to industrial activities, and specifically to the production of certain chemicals, the primary production of certain chemicals from scratch. And the list currently does not include benzene, toluene, and xylene, and the proposal is to add those items to the list. And of course, there are many other ways that we need to work to protect the public health. This is just one of them, and that is what the public hearing is about, is that revision to the town code. So having introduced it in that way and hopefully set it up so we understand what we're talking about a little bit, we have a sign-in sheet here with 5 people on it right now. As I mentioned earlier, typically we have 5 minutes for public hearings. Heather Hurley is the first person signed in. If Ms. Hurley could.
And we do, by the way, have the affidavit of publication and the notice of public.
Thank you. Yep. So the public hearing was properly notified to the media. Is Ms. Hurley here? Great. There you are.
All right. Just one comment for the audience on it, okay, Paul? As you're coming up, to our knowledge, my knowledge and Paul's knowledge, this change in town code has unanimous support here tonight. Just so you know, as you come up, we're here to hear you, obviously. It's perfect for the public hearing.
And having said that, as always, we don't really make up our minds until we've collected all the information. So the comments that Heather and others will make are certainly.
My comment? As of now, this legislation to change the town code, to add these items to not being allowed in the town, has unanimous support on this board to change. Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to clarify once again that we don't, I personally, although I've been opposed to Anelitech and I've proposed this change in legislation, until we collect all documents and have our public hearing, the vote that I or another town board member would make is certainly not predestined. And I think it's important that we recognize the value of public hearings to the decision-making process always. And I hope the person in the rear there isn't.
However, we workshopped this before. We have discussed this before. So yes, anytime we've had public hearings, and we've had public hearings many years that I've been here, all right, and there have been times where things change because of public hearings.
Absolutely.
It's 100%. But at the same time, I think what Mr. Moore said is very accurate.
Yeah, I just wanted, I'm sorry, I'm being a little legalistic. I just don't want the public or anybody to ever assume that the town board has made up his mind before it's listened to the public. And I think that
Unless it's
other
with-
boards have given that impression in the past, and I think it was an unfortunate impression. And that's, I don't doubt your support for the measure.
Unless it's when you want to give your opinion beforehand.
I don't know about that. But anyway, we're,
I'm sorry. Okay.
so that's enough, that's enough.
I'm sorry. I was being mean to the supervisor again. I apologize.
Apology accepted. Okay, now we're turning around and we're going to have our public hearing. Ms. Hurley, you're first up. Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley.
Hi, I just had a question because I was a little unclear. I don't know if you could just answer it or clarify. Will there be a vote tonight on this? Or is, because it kind of affects, I think, people's perception as to what's happening. Will there be a vote tonight to amend the town code to ban benzene?
I would say, in all likelihood, I would propose a vote. Right now,
Okay.
it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
And it will be a subject of discussion after the
Okay,
the
all right.
public
that's
portion of the
okay.
hearing.
So that, it's just going to affect,
Just to be clear, because this was, I circulated this, just to be clear, because I circulated this comment as early as this morning. The law requires that a proposed local law be reviewed by the Rockland County Department of Planning, the regional planning agency. It has 30 days within which to comment, which could include conditions, which would have to be adopted unless there were a majority plus one of the board. To date, we have not, to my knowledge, received those comments. I spoke to the Department of Planning this morning. They were busy. They hoped to get me something this afternoon before I came up. I did not have anything. So, unless, Andy, you've received something,
No,
then legally there can't be a vote tonight.
that helps to clarify it a bit, too. That was good comment. Thank you. All right, Ms. Hurley, go ahead.
okay. Well, with what I'm going to say, knowing that now, it kind of negates what I'm going to say, but I'll still say what I was planning on saying because I do support the fact that I think it's the responsibility of this board to vote on and prohibit the manufacturing and future research and development of BTX in the town of Orangetown. It is one item that is for this amendment of the prohibited uses, one item which can be detailed in one sentence. There are no adverse environmental impacts from banning the manufacturing and future R&D of a carcinogenic chemical in Orangetown. There are only positive impacts from doing that. It is beneficial to the people who live here and to the environment. This is a no-brainer and should be approved tonight, and any person on this town board who opposes it, we'd like you to explain your reasons why you will not support it or why you wouldn't vote on a proposal, but now we know. Since February 2014, longtime resident and attorney Jim Riley, along with many others in the community, addressed this board on various occasions, asking for you all to review and amend the current prohibited uses in the zoning code. Why has it taken this long? After reviewing the comments from the planning board, I would like to know exactly who from the planning board supported their recommendation, which states at the June 10th planning board meeting, the planning board recommended that the town board perform a more comprehensive review of the zoning code before taking a piecemeal approach. And why is the planning board trying to dictate how the town board should review the town code? Why would the planning board want to prevent protecting the residents in Orangetown with this one amendment for prohibited uses?
Just to clarify,
Yes.
we solicited the opinion of the planning board because that's part of the process of having a public
Right.
hearing.
Okay. And as you've all said it before at various town board meetings, you're all concerned for the safety and for your family's safety because you all have family here. Now knowing that there's no vote, I would have said that tonight's the night to do something about it and put your words to action to prove to the people of Orangetown that you are representing our needs above those of future toxic chemical plants. And just to reiterate, on April 22nd, 2015, and in numerous propaganda, postcard mailings, and ads, Mr. Sadolski and Anelitech stated that there will never be any manufacturing, so this board should have no problem voting on this. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you. All right. Cynthia Anselmo from Palisades. I just want to be clear, we're doing the, are you talking about bamboo by any chance? Yes, I am. Okay, that's in the public hearing. Well, the public comment.
I thought I signed the public comment.
Yeah, that's why I reiterated at the beginning of the meeting. There's two separate public comments tonight. One is general public comment, and that will happen soon. And one is public comment specifically about the proposed town code change.
My name should be on the other.
We'll make sure it's moved over because I understand. Yep. Yeah, we're adding your name to the public comment right now. She was signed in number 2. Okay. Thank you for allowing me to clarify that. Mr. Michael Mandel? All right.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart, members of the town board. My name is Michael Mandel, a resident of Pearl River. I'm talking tonight as a resident of the town and not a member of the planning board. First, I believe the code should be revised in totality in a timely fashion. However, since it's being revised, sections 4.42 and 4.5, which includes gasification, which is a time-tested, environmentally sound way of converting the energy of municipal solid waste into useful products such as electricity, fertilizer, and transportation, fuels, and chemicals, I concur that this should be in there. However, I think pyrolysis should also be in. Pyrolysis is the thermal decomposition of waste in the absence of external oxygen supply. The pyrolysis process takes place under temperatures typically around 500 degrees centigrade. The production of electricity is one of its end products. The system is designed for treatment of a variety of different wastes, such as municipal solid waste, same as gasification, sewage and oil sludge, medical waste, and plastics, et al. It should be definitely included in 4.42, and although 4.45 states gasification similar such facilities, pyrolysis should be included by name, not just in similar such facilities. This is all part of the green environmental way of producing other chemicals and producing production, but I think it should be in here. Otherwise, we're going to come up, and if you look at most of the sites, when they talk about gasification, they also talk about pyrolysis. Thank you.
Dr. Kathleen Kelly, please.
Good evening, gentlemen.
I think
Ms.
in
Madigan,
small
how are you?
words.
Kathleen
Welcome.
Kelly, Pearl River, New York. I heard you when you said it was difficult to make sense of this scientific jargon that's been throwing around, so I'd love to make it clear for you. It is very hard to make sense of what's going on. I'm bewildered myself that we're actually sitting here today trying to discuss amending our codes to prohibit the manufacture of a carcinogen in my neighborhood is shocking to me, absolutely shocking. I was born and raised in Jersey City. If anyone's ever been there, you know what that's like. Smoke was everywhere, toxic fumes were everywhere. The smell in the summer was horrifying. I worked my butt off with my husband to move to Pearl River. I moved here because it was a beautiful, aesthetic, wonderful community for my children. The air was clean. I could see the sun, and I never saw a toxic plume outside my yard. I want to keep that for my children. I bought a home here so my children could live my legacy on Van Buren Street in Pearl River, New York. I don't want to see smoke coming out. I don't want to smell smoke. I don't want, as a doctor of nursing practice, to nurse to my community anymore. I have lived the effects post 9/11 with my husband and his colleagues to the point where I can't take it anymore. The amount of cancer, the amount of leukemia, the amount of destruction to the family unit is mind-boggling. We learned our lesson. We were told the air was safe. The reality is, it was not. The reason we were told it was safe is because they didn't know. The Environmental Protection Agency didn't know. We had never been faced with this kind of situation. But now we know. And in medicine, if a mistake is made, you own up to it, you learn from it, and you never go back there, because that is the definition of insanity. Continuing to make the same mistakes again and again. So now we have the opportunity with town codes to right the wrong, but we are being reactive. Proactive people prevent disease. In medicine, reactive measures treat disease, but that means the disease happened. In our town codes that you have, and I appreciate we're doing this process, I really do, and I appreciate the dedication and the time that you're spending to do this. But if we don't have in this language that we are prohibiting the manufacturing and the research and development of BTX, we are not doing our job. Because it doesn't matter to me if you are manufacturing BTX to sell it, look at it, research it, give it to downstream investors, the emissions are the same. The emissions are not smart enough to know this is research and development. They're not. The catalytic converter is not smart enough to say, I shouldn't put this out here because they're only researching and developing. I get the research and development process. It's how we make progress. It's how we perfect things. But inherent to research and development are mistakes. And it's by mistakes that we correct. But you cannot make mistakes with benzene. It is the most toxic chemical known to us now. And just because it is here in other venues in our air does not mean we should make more of it and put us at risk. So I implore you, please listen to us. I'm making it very simple. If it causes cancer, don't do it. That's really clear. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. That was well spoken. Mr. Thomas Sullivan?
That was beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Bahari, for your very informative presentation. I won't be here that long. I just wanted to say, when you think about what Anelotech tells us all the time, it's been green spin from the beginning. First, it was green benzene, and when that didn't work anymore, they started talking about lawnmowers. I think it's clear now that we can't trust them. And these, independent reports that they keep pointing us back to, now we know that those are not even credible, not even at all. When the emails between the ZBA chair and Triumvirate were uncovered, and the similarity of those emails to the final report were uncovered, it was pretty disturbing. And even that in and of itself would make you think that there's something wrong with the company and their reporting and everything else. But I think at this point, we have to look at Anelotech and wonder if we could trust anything they say. Thank you.
All right, That's who signed in on the public hearing sign-in sheet. By a raise of hands, is anybody else here to speak on this topic to the town board? I see a hand right in front, ma'am, if you could come up, please. Ms. Shaw, thank you. Sorry, it's,
Helen Shaw from Pearl River. I put my name on the wrong sheet, so I apologize.
that's all right.
I am very happy that there is support for this new code. I just have a couple of questions, since I don't need to go through what I had written down. I wanted to ask Mr. Edwards, you talked about a 30-day comment period for the county. When is that 30 days up? Just curious.
I guess counting the day, 25th, 26th, 27th. The notice went out on the 26th of May, so.
So it's close. It's in another week or so. Okay.
And I have an understanding of what the county's comments are going to be. I'll take another look after the public hearing downstairs to see if anything came in. But yeah, it's close.
Okay. So knowing that it's going to be close, when would this come up for a vote? Would this be in 2 weeks' time, or?
The next regular town board meeting, right?
Yeah, we have, the town board calendar is available, and I plan on putting it on the next one.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to make one,
Can it be done at a workshop, or does it need to be a regular meeting?
You can vote at a workshop if you decide to do that,
The next time we get together is July 7th, workshop.
right?
July 7th and the 14th is the regular town board.
So that
Okay.
clarifies the time frame for you.
okay. And I just want to make one more comment. I agree with Mr. Mandel. If we can add his comments to this piece, it would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your comment. Okay, let's see some hands. Who else is here to speak on this? Okay, in the back there, so the first one went up with the other Dr. Bahari, I guess? Yeah. Sorry, if you could just, thank you.
I'm Emil Bahari, and I live in Pearl River.
Thank you, sir.
Glad to see you all. I oppose the manufacture of benzene, toluene, and xylene in this community. The primary reasons are that benzene is toxic, it's carcinogen, and its production should be disallowed in a residential community. We have been told over and over again that the emissions that is safe, but that is not documented and is questionable. My objective tonight is to show the flaw in the information we have been fed, claiming that the operations are safe. They're not safe. The second is showing that the production of BTX in our community goes against the grain, against the trend of reducing toxic emissions in residential areas, such as cars and lawnmowers. Now, let us consider the centerpiece technology underlying the claim to safety that this production involves, and that's a catalytic oxidizer. This shows the percent emission in catalytic oxidizer as the temperature goes up, the percent emission goes down. Okay? And at this level, we have the simulation target. At this level, this is the simulation target. This is an ideal. It's produced by simulation, and it's underlying subject to a number of errors, including the model itself may be wrong. Could be an error. In addition, in executing this, there could be a number of other factors. You see on this side, in trying to do this, there are accidents, casualties, poisoning, infiltration failure, biomass variation, and startup and shutdown. Each of these things will allow to cause the catalytic oxidizer to be operating in the suboptimal region. And you notice that it is very steep. A slight change in temperature can cause to happen. Of course, they tell you they're going to be running this at very high temperatures, so this shouldn't happen. but these are the facts that do happen. Accidents, catalytic poisoning, equipment failure, biomass variation, startup or shutdown. All these things affect the amount of benzene that will be emitted. Now let's consider one important thing, the catalytic poisoning. This data is actually obtained from the Falco oxidizer, the very item that Analtech uses. Now, Analtech, the Falco manufacturers obtain their BTX, their oxidizer from Clariant Corporation. And Clariant specifically avoids the warranty if the catalyst is poisoned, and poisoning would be by such things as heavy metals such as lead. Now, lead and other heavy metals are present in biomass, and they get it from the chemicals that are applied to the plant when it's growing, like insecticide. Now, let us see what happens here. Suppose now we have this chart that shows it, but also shows here. Suppose now that we do not operate at the ideal temperature, like here. This is where Analytics says they get 98% reduction in emission, avoidance of emission. Suppose that the temperature is just about 4% lower. Now this means that the emission rate is going to 10% rather than 2%, claimed by Analytics. This means that this estimate of emission is 5 times what they claim it will be. 5 times. And what does that mean in terms that we can understand? They say they're producing 0.0166 pounds per hour. 5 times that is 0.0083 pounds per hour. Using the current estimate of emission by lawnmowers, that's a factor of 21 times higher. 21 times higher, not 1. And we can play number games. If you like to multiply that by 24, it'd be like 500 hours of lawnmower operations added to whatever is being produced. If you use the cars, it would be 1,000 hours of car operations from that one site. So,
Sorry,
essentially are showing that.
Are you wrapping up?
I am.
Okay, great.
Well, in fact, I can say, I just want to make one comment, that we're adding emissions to the environment. And I take exception or annoyed at Analytics advertisement about the levels of emission that we already are being exposed to. I find that arrogant, offensive, and insensitive. Essentially, they're saying that just because you're being exposed to these poisons, we just add a little bit more to that. So why worry about it?
Okay.
And finally, I want to summarize. Benzene is highly toxic carcinogenic substance. I showed in the graph that the emissions can be much larger than claimed with very small changes in factors. Then the results from simulation are far from what execution provides. You cannot get those results in actual reality. And allowing BTX production community goes against the trend of reducing emissions in the environment. Production of BTX will endanger the health of our community, especially the health of pregnant women and children. And finally, the price we will pay for the health issues may well exceed any economic benefits we get by allowing production of BTX in our community.
Thank you for those comments. All right, by raise of hands, is anybody else here? Yes, in the back, sir.
Good evening, Ken Cully from Nanuet. First of all, I want to thank you guys. Mr. Davini, I asked last time that the doctors would be able to come in to speak, and you had them here tonight. So, Mr. Stewart, I don't know who's responsible for it, but I wanted to thank you. And I'm glad that we are changing the code. And I'll be honest, I was sitting here and, you know, I came pretty mellow, but I'm actually getting, it's almost annoying now that now we're calling for a moratorium, and now we're all against it. And since September of 2014, we've been asking that people would listen to people, listen to the other side, and get the facts, have a moratorium. Wouldn't it have been so much better if we had just said, let's just stop this. Let's just stop this process. Let these people come in and talk. Scientists. Instead of just, you know, stuff in the newspaper and monkeys and I mean, moose and puppies and stuff. Here we have scientists that are applying scientific processes to this problem. And if we had just stopped and maybe listened, maybe this whole thing wouldn't have been after the cat's out of the bag. We could have stopped this poison in our neighborhood ahead of time. So in a sense, I'm glad you're doing it, but I gotta be honest, I'm really disappointed because I think it's just nonsense that we let it go this far and we didn't stop and say, wait a minute, this is a problem that we haven't seen, it doesn't fit in our town code, we shouldn't be doing it, let's get real scientists in here. Maybe these guys aren't 100% right, but I'm telling you, they're pretty convincing that there's another side to this story, and it wasn't presented here until too late. Okay, so I'm glad you're making the change, the cat's out of the bag, and I just hope that we win in court. Thank you very much.
By a raise of hands. Yes, sir? Thanks for coming up. You could just remind us of your name and location.
Bobby Shannon from Pearl River, New York. Just going to talk about a different aspect. The doctor, you know, he's a scientist. I'm not a scientist by any means, but I'm a New York City fireman. So I can tell you about the hazmat situation of this benzene. I have right here the breakdown of flammable liquids that are registered with the federal government, right? Which we drill on in the New York City Fire Department. Benzene is a Class 1B flammable liquid. What also is a Class 1B? Well, other chemicals which none of us would even know, but you will understand that jet fuel is right next to benzene, right? And gasoline. So you have to set, it has, oh, I'm gonna get to this point. Flash point, a flash point of a chemical. Does anybody know what a flash point is? All right, so flash point, I'll read it for the people that don't know. Flash point of a liquid is the lowest temperature at which it can ignite, okay? So what is the flash point of benzene? Flash point of benzene is 11 degrees. 11 degrees, okay? Mind you, it's classed with jet fuel. So now we say to ourselves, the what if factor. What if a fire happens at this chemical plant? One, that individual over there has no track record using these chemicals. They're a new company, correct? That's right, all right. That's one aspect of it. Now we have a fire there. Does Nanuet and Pearl River have the capability of fighting that fire? Do they have hazmat units? Do they have foam rigs? Do they have Purple K rigs? Do they have the manpower to decon the area? You're evacuating towns now. Who's paying for this? Is he going to pay for it? Or are we going to pay for it as taxpayers with our lives and our money? Because if it was that safe, I applaud him to sell his house and move right next to the plant downwind where he would get all the benzene. Okay? Now, he keeps on saying a lawnmower, a lawnmower. If your lawnmower goes on fire, I'm going to stretch my garden hose, I'm going to put it out. Right? I can't stretch my garden hose to the power plant and put it out with a garden hose. So you have to think about this. When you buy a house, you say the what if factor. You put smoke alarms in your house, you put CO detectors, you tell your kids, call 911 if something happens, don't answer the door if someone you don't know goes to the door. It's the what if factor, right? Well, what are we going to do if something happens? The doctor said you put a drop of benzene in the swimming pool, contaminates it. You have to transport these chemicals. So when you transport these chemicals, we have a spill in a road. It goes into the drainage system. What do? Does Pearl River and Nanuet have the capability of dealing with that? You can't call the New York City Fire Department with their $1 million worth of equipment to come here and fight your fire for you. Who are you going to call? You know, we have a volunteer fire department that have limited resources. And also, I want to bring up is that I watched this individual sit back there while these people are speaking. And what is he doing? He's on his phone. That person is responsible for my children's lives. Right? They're responsible for my wife's life. So $17,000 of property tax is not worth it. If you want $17,000 of property tax, build 2 houses in Pearl River. You'll get 25. Right? So my thing is, I'm worried about the hazmat situation because now you have first responders and they're young kids that are volunteering. They're volunteering. Bunker gear is not classified as a hazmat suit, right? So those kids are going to get sick. Not now, they might not die at the fire, but they will die 10, 15 years later, as we've seen guys die from 9/11 10, 15 years later from cancer. Because you cannot fight that fire without someone getting hurt. It's just not going to happen. And now you're talking about disaster. There's Pearl River, and then you what? Want to be known across the country as the biggest mistake that happened in a residential area. For some guy throwing some money at us. All right? I'm not up here. We already made a mistake for voting it in. That is by far. You're not going to get new couples here. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to get off. You're not going to get new couples up here to move here with a plan here. The whole object to keep Pearl River the way it is to get young, blue-collar, hard-working couples that want to raise their family here and come here. And I'm telling you right now, property value will go down and people will leave. And you do not want that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks. By show of hands, is anybody else here to speak on this topic? In front, Denise Shoren, right?
Hi, I'll talk really quickly. I just made a couple of notes while I was listening to all these great things everybody was saying. I want to support Mr. Mandel's idea about pyrolysis of municipal solid waste and plastics be included in this code revision. I'd also request that there's a definition in the code for adulterated versus unadulterated biomass sources so that we can see if the biomass sources include construction and demolition waste. In addition, if we're only going to say manufacturing and we're going to allow research and development, I would just encourage you to establish a quantity. Is 2 tons research and development? Can 10 tons be research and development? I would really encourage you to establish a certain level that can be considered manufacturing versus research and development. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Who's next? Hands up. In the white, the back there. I think that was Mr. Panes who had his hand up. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Hi, good evening. My name is Scott Panis. I'm from Nanuet, New York. Well, the citizens should not have to protect themselves. So this is sad for these town boards, for the ZBA. The citizens should not have to have come here for the last 6 months to help to change the town code. If the citizens did not show up here, nothing was getting done. And Nelitech was getting the rubber stamp back in November by the ZBA until a few of us showed up and basically expressed our concerns. This is an area that's riddled with cancer, different breast cancer and autism. Benzene, as people have repeatedly stated, is a known carcinogen, a cancer-causing chemical that is not good. Nothing good is coming out of benzene. It is a disgrace that we're even here discussing this. This does not belong 300 to 400 feet from children's homes. I'm not saying that Nelitech is a bad company and might not be on to something good. It just does not belong in a residential neighborhood. That's the point. It does not belong near people's homes. And Mr. Valentine, a few weeks ago you had said, we have to be very careful because we don't want to turn away other businesses. We have to be very careful. We don't want to, basically you said, we don't want to make it difficult for other companies to come here and show that it's very hard to get approval in Orangetown. I said that? Yes, you said that. Yes, you did, sir. Look back at the video. It's all on YouTube. Maybe they're not the exact words, but you said we have to be very careful to the message we put out to businesses because we don't want to turn people away. Okay, but we'll invite a cancer-causing chemical. Okay, go back and review. Go back and review the video. Okay, it's all your own words, my friend. Okay, so basically, Nelitech is a magnet for poison. They originally called it a smokestack on their own plan. It was called a smokestack. That's what they called it because that's what it is. It's a smokestack that will vent the poison from their building into our air as they manufacture BTX. So the other thing is I didn't see any of you at the rally last night speaking up to help the community to say that you were against the poison. So I'm a little bit ashamed about that, but I did see Andy, and thank you for your support. I meant the other four. I didn't see any of you there last night. Secondly, in the PDF, which is labeled Final 3513 by Anelitech, the benzene toluene release. Basically, Anelitech says back in 2013 that they are gearing up to make 100 kilogram samples to distribute to downstream users. All of a sudden, when we raised hell, it's, oh, the people don't want the 100 kilogram samples. They don't want the 100 kilogram samples. They only want 1 kilogram samples. Basically, this company has lied through and through. Let's make no mistake. This is a business. It's not a research and development company that's studying how to cure cancer. They are bringing cancer to Pearl River. That's right. Secondly, when you're a liar, you're a liar. When you tell lies, you're a liar. And then I don't believe anything you say from there on in. In this room, there is a liar, Mr. Sorensen. At the Pearl River meeting, I asked him, are you a shareholder of this company? And he said, I am not. I'm just an employee. It turns out that he's listed on the 10K, and he is at least some sort of partner with these people. So when he was asked, he could honestly said, yeah, I have something to do with the company more than just the salary. The trust, there is none. They've changed what the biomass is going to be multiple times. Many of you already know, I asked you, Mr. DeVinny, weeks ago, if it's safe, put it in writing for me. Write down on this town's letterhead that you are saying that this is safe, and if any one child or one person is ever sick from this process, that ultimately the town will make good on it. And your answer was, I couldn't possibly do that. You can't, because you don't know if it's safe, because it's a pilot program. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Thank you for saying you're going to not have the BTX. Thank you. We need to look into this before this is going on. It's shameful that we have to file an Article 78 and bring this in front of a judge to prove that these town boards have basically screwed up this review process. It is shameful. This was your job to protect the people, every one of you. Dennis Troy, Tom Moore, Tom DeVinny, and Paul Valentine. Your job. And also you said the other night, Mr. Moore, oh, we didn't, make no mistake, we didn't vote on this. You didn't do enough in everybody's opinion. You didn't do enough. Thank you for your time.
Is there anybody here, I'm just curious, to speak against this town code change? Because we've heard obviously a lot of support for it. I'm just curious if there's anybody here to speak against it. No, not seeing any hands. I didn't call on you yet, just to be clear. By a raise of hands, is anybody else here to speak at the public hearing?
There you go.
Yeah. I would just like it if we could just observe some of the conventions, which is, you know, in respect to everybody who's here, you raise your hand before you approach the podium. Mr. Lorenus.
He was the last person to raise his hand, and no one else did, so I was respectfully waiting for him to be done, and I came here. But it just goes to show the venom that is spewed by this town council. And what the problem is that our leadership, let me rephrase that, they're not to blame. They're a business. They're out to make money. No matter where they go, they're going to try to make money. You're to blame. Because you are the people who are responsible. You've been elected to be responsible for this community, not them. And you know these people were coming in with this type of business, and you did nothing. Like a Monday morning quarterback, you want to stop it now. Where were you back in September when this all started? Where were you? But here's the thing. We can change that. And I'm saying it on camera to these people, don't vote for them. Period. End of story. We can change it, put new leadership in, leadership that's going to be for the people, for the community, not for businesses who lie to us, who cheat, who do the wrong thing. And every time I get up here, you guys give me that cross-eyed look. I did something wrong. I'm a man of this community. I respect this community. Everything that I do is for this community. These people come out every single week for this community, and you do nothing. You're weak leaders, and we are going to change that. Thank you.
Are there any other individuals here to speak on this topic? All right, seeing no hands raised. Is there any? No?
No, I just want John to, what do we need to do? 'Cause we're not voting on it, so.
Right. Well, I'll make a motion to close this part of the public hearing in any case, and then we can have discussion. How's that sound? Do I have a second? Valentine, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Guys have it. Okay. So the hearing portion is over, and the town board members may want to say a word or two at this time in response. Obviously, we can't always address every single issue that's raised. And would anybody like to comment about any of the things heard, or, oh, want to start over here? No, none? Mr. Moore?
Based on what we're having the public hearing on, I think it's very simple. It's what I said at the beginning. We support changing the town code to not allow benzene. We heard everything.
We're hearing that
We've listened for a while.
loud and clear, absolutely.
The points raised by Mike Mandel and Denise Shorn are very, very interesting. I guess, is John Edwards here? Because
He's back.
the question is, the suggestions they have, do they if you change the law too much, then you would have to reinitiate the whole thing.
Yep, it delays.
Del-
You gotta go through new, whole public
You've got to
hearing.
republish the law. I guess the
Starts
question
all
is,
over.
I mean, that's just a question for John. Some of the suggestions tonight, do they change the law so much that you would have to republish?
By adding the prohibition against what's called pyrolysis, I think that was the main thing.
Well,
Ms.
Shorn had
She was actually addressing a really important issue, which has to do with the distinction between manufacturing and research and development, and calling attention to what I think is a fact, which is that research and development is not clearly enough defined, either by town code or by the DEC, which is issuing permits, to really help us kind of know and gauge the health impacts of X, Y, or Z research and development process. And that's certainly an area, and I think that it's well understood by this board and anybody involved that we got to start somewhere, but fixing one thing isn't enough. And there are other matters that we've discussed here related to this one, which was raised by Ms. Shorn, and also the question of the relationship between the planning board and the zoning board when it comes to looking at performance standards, because one of the things we saw was that the environmental review by the planning board didn't involve the performance standards, which is really where most of the chemical analysis takes place, and that was over at the zoning board, and that threw into question the adequacy of the planning board's environmental review. So I'm
Okay.
just naming a couple of things which are work
Andy,
to
I
be
actually
done.
was speaking to John, and I would like him to answer that question. We all went, it was my turn, I asked John a question that is very relevant. I'd like John to answer that question.
If you want my opinion,
Yes, I do.
I think both changes would be meaningful. I think I'm sorry, your name was? I think her suggestion would certainly be meaningful, perhaps more than adding another process, but frankly, I think both are meaningful. So,
But
I think you go back to square one. Now, what is square one? You're setting yourselves back at least 30 days, probably 40 days. Not necessarily, it might be a little shorter because the county the period to comment is 30 days, but they can and have accommodated boards in the past with shorter review periods. It depends on their schedule, but I think those are meaningful changes, and the local law process requires you to start anew.
Keep in mind that our town board meetings are spread out over the summer, So those 40 days can turn into 60 days.
So
Depending
I
on
guess
what
the
you-
question then is, do we pass what we have and then work on the other suggestions in the future? Or do we delay the process?
I would like to get something done, actually.
I would like to pass what we have and work on the rest in the future, but that's my feeling.
So right now, where things stand right now is that we've had our public hearing. We are awaiting at least one document from one of the agencies that we need to hear from. But barring any major surprises, I will certainly put this matter on the agenda for a vote at the next meeting. There'll be a
workshop, right?
workshop, and the meeting after that is regular town board.
Well,
So that's
just
the
not to
timeframe,
interrupt you.
and what Mr. Edwards basically said is that adding meaningfully, like important language to the proposed legislation at this time would require us to repeat the hearing process. And I think we all agree that there's a lot of work to be done, but you got to start somewhere.
That goes back to the question, can we actually pass it, have a public hearing and pass it at the workshop?
As long as you notice it, you can.
We can have a vote at the workshop, that's my understanding. And we've already had our public hearing, and if we have the comments back from the county, presumably they'll be here by then. So my understanding is we can go ahead and have a vote, whether it's a workshop or a regular town board meeting.
So why not vote at the next workshop, vote on the BTX law, and also at that time, introduce the other amendments, you know, for whether, I don't even know how to spell paralysis, but and also what Ms. Shawn had suggested. Put that up, and then you set up a public hearing, some future date.
Keep it
But
going.
that way there, you're working.
Exactly.
That way there, you're working in parallel.
I agree with that basic strategy, and I tend to keep bringing proposed improvements to the town code as frequently as we can pull it together with language that will be sort of clear enough to withstand a hearing process and critique, and we can kind of go with it. So I've got a long list, and the items mentioned tonight are definitely on it, and I would accept input and feedback from anybody on the town board and our staff as we go forward, looking at areas of the town code that need to be reviewed. So let's make that a plan. We'll have our vote on the next meeting, but we need to take a couple of votes as a part of that, and declaring ourselves lead agency under SECRA, making determination under SECRA, and then actually voting on the proposed legislation are all votes that would need to be taken. But basically, it boils down to approval of the law.
No, we're not voting on it.
We're going to then have a resolution to continue this public hearing.
No, public hearing.
We closed the public hearing.
What we're gonna do.
The public portion is closed. So we're going to close this public hearing
Yes.
and
then,
adopt it, or,
no, we're gonna vote to adopt it at the next workshop.
all right, so in essence, we're going to vote tonight to continue, not the public portion, but the public hearing.
I'm not sure that we need to vote to do that.
Reserve, okay.
Okay, so now that we go to public comment?
Indeed.
Do you want to see? Is that what you want?
No, let's just do it. We'll do those decisions together. We can review SECRA and any other documents, right? John, do you have a different proposal relative to how we should move forward on this?
Yeah, I don't think you should do anything. You're reserving
Right,
decision,
that's what we
reserve
decided.
decision.
Okay.
But you're going to take a vote on that. It's gonna be a formal vote to reserve the decision until such and such a date.
Right.
All right, we have a motion to reserve the decision until July 7th, at which point I will have on the agenda the votes on SECRA and approval of this change to town code. Do we have a second on that?
Yeah, second.
From Moore, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay,
Well, I guess,
now we need to find out who on this public comment. I'll make a motion to open the public comment period.
second,
Second from Divany, all in favor, say aye.
this is the doctor that, Dr. Kelly, do you want to speak again?
Okay,
Okay.
so we, just to see who's on this list, Kathleen Kelly, Michael Mandel, Eileen Larkin, Esther Baitler, Heather Hurley, Amy Wertheim, Tom Sullivan, Can't read that one. And Cynthia Anselmo on the bamboo.
And may I have the?
Ms. Kelly?
Hello again. I really wanted to speak at the public comment again because I took offense at the previous planning board meeting where I had made a comment regarding benzene being heavier than air. And a gentleman from Anelitech disputed that. I was not allowed to refute it. And Mr. Sorensen said, no, it isn't. I'd like to put in public record, and I'm glad we're on television. I am not a liar. I have never said anything that isn't true. I value my veracity to the end. I say it the way it is. You may not like it, but I say it the way it is. And I'm extremely truthful, and I value how people respect me. According to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, benzene's vapor is heavier than air and may sink to low-lying areas. Here is the proof. According to the Department of Public Health, benzene is an industrial chemical considered to be a chemical warfare agent, highly flammable. Benzene's vapor is heavier than air and will collect in low-lying areas. According to OSHA, benzene is heavier than air. It will fall down as a vapor and it will collect in low-lying areas. As you recall, my comment was, on a rainy day, these emissions will come down, they will filter into the ground where our children are playing barefoot in their yard. Benzene will collect on the surface of swimming pools and will stay there. Children put their mouths on the water of swimming pools. That is the fact. Ingestion of benzene within 15 minutes will render the child unconscious. I would like to know what we're going to do about that. And I would like to know that the next time I make a statement and I say that benzene is heavier than air, or I say something and someone from Anelitech disputes it, that the public be given an opportunity to respond, because no one disputed that, and I took offense to that. Now, I know it wasn't you personally, but I think as members who are elected, when we come to speak in front of you, that our titles be respected. I am a doctor of nursing practice. I have a Bachelor of Engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology. I am certified in neuroscience. I am certified in critical care. I care for people sicker than hell for my job. I am a professor of nursing at an accredited university. I'm pretty bright. I would not say something that is incorrect, and I would like to be held to that standard, and I appreciate being able to say this. Thank you. My second comment, and I'll leave the research for you, and you can give it over to the planning board. My second comment is that I would like to know if when these town codes go into play, will they be retroactive if a decision is made in the meantime?
Interesting question. Michael Mandel.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart, members of the Town Board. For the record, I'm Michael Mandel, member of the Orangetown Planning Board. Town residents have asked me why I voted no on the Anelitech project, and apparently my rationale was not clear enough from my questions and Anelitech's answers. I should have listed them prior to voting no. I will summarize some, repeat some of them now. First, regarding emissions, they stated there were only 5 and the rest were protected as proprietary rights. My questioning in their answers, including in the environmental assessment form, Anelitech disclosed methane and ethylene were also omitted. They refused to tell us what else was being omitted. On a side note, a FOIL by Attorney Tormey, the courts have subsequently agreed with me that all the chemicals redacted should have been released. Second, their application for funding and presentations made by them stated operations would be 24/7, 365 days a year. Under questioning, they denied this and said it would be on and off testing. Further questioning revealed that on and off meant 3 to 4 months of continuous operations. Third, both myself and Mr. Dell asked for detailed and specific information on the type of monitoring equipment that would be used for the emissions testing. Their answer was best currently available technology. No specifics were given as required. Fourth, regarding fuel source for the project, their applications and presentations indicated wood flour, corn stover, cane biograss, newsprint, municipal solid waste, and recycled plastics. Their answers to questioning was wood flour only on several occasions. At a subsequent meeting, they changed it to wood flour, corn stover, and cane byegrass on a specific time schedule. In addition, when asked if they had decided to add another fuel source, at a prior meeting they stated, quote, "If something is going to change, we'll have to get a DEC permit and the town will be notified," end quote. According to the DEC, quote, "DEC does not issue permits for specific feedstock conversions to biofuel," end quote. In addition, they could not name the source and supplier of the wood flour. Fifth, this is an experimental and untested process with unknown results. And should a disaster occur, our fire department would be ill-prepared to contain and deal with it. If they do not know exactly the complete list of chemicals being used in the process, produced, and present in the resulting waste. They stated they talked to the Pearl River Fire Department, but did not contact the Nanuet Department. How can you act without knowing all the facts? And Naltec refused to list all the chemicals used or produced or emitted. Our firefighters do a great job, but they're volunteers whose health and safety should not be compromised. I'm basing this evaluation on my federal certifications on-site coordinator at major disasters, including toxic spills, working with various agencies, including the New York City Fire Department. A proper decision cannot be made unless all the facts are known through full disclosure, not partial. Therefore, when balancing the unknown and the safety of our residents, safety wins out. Thank you.
Well said. And thank you for your service on the planning board, Michael. Eileen Larkin?
Good evening, members of the board. First, I'd like to thank Ann Penzow for her excellent coverage of the flood down at the sewer treatment plant on May 31st. My next point is to ask about the town board contract that was given to Mr. Billy Beckman to appraise property at the RPC site. I'd like to know which property is he going to appraise, and why is it that this contract was issued by Brian Kenny, our town appraiser, as opposed to the town board, which usually puts it on as an item on the agenda for the regular town board meeting. I feel that if he did get the contract to appraise a property for a sports field, that there's a direct conflict of interest. Mr. Beckman's wife is the head of the Orangetown OMM, and Mr. Beckman is also the chair of the Orangetown Conservative Party. I believe both those issues are conflicts of interest and may be of interest to some other people in the state of New York to look into. I want to know what other parcels of property are up for discussion and appraisal, and who will be doing those appraisals. I also want to know why Naltec is paying $17,000 in property taxes. They received a $750,000 grant from the state of New York, I guess because Mrs. Sadowski works very hard for the Democratic Party and raises thousands of dollars for them. The assessed valuation, I want to know, and I want an answer. What is the assessed valuation on that piece of property? I own 1/3 of an acre and the house is over 50 years old, and I pay $13,000 a year taxes. They are paying $17,000 a year in taxes, and I'm sure more than 1/3 of an acre in this town. There has to be an investigation, because I'm fed up with absorbing it for commercial properties, which we do in the town of Orangetown. Whenever there's a tax surge on a commercial site, we, the homeowner, gets to make up the difference. This is wrong. I'm asking people in this audience, what do you pay in taxes? And why are they paying $17,000 a year and getting a $750,000 grant to bring this poison into Orangetown? Is that the governor's approval? I don't know. I don't know. But this has to be investigated, and I want it investigated by you, and if you don't do it, I'll go to someone named Parit Barrera to find out. I'm fed up with all these gimmicks that are going on throughout the world and the government. Well, the other thing is, I believe at this point that the long EAF should be mandatory for any project that comes before any of our land use boards. This whole project started with a short EAF, and I was the one who asked the question because I've been down that field a number of years with the Hamlet Palisades. every project coming before our land use boards should be part of a long EAF. Thank you.
Thank you. Oftentimes, we really get some great comments, and I just want to remind everybody to email them or leave a printed copy, because if I'm looking at the piece of paper here, it's because I'm writing, not because I'm not listening, but it's hard to get everything down. So thank you for that comment, and I think that's a really interesting suggestion.
I want to know the answers to those questions.
Fair enough. If you could give them to me in writing, it would be a lot easier to remember exactly what they were. Esther Baitler.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart, John Edwards, and town board members. For the record, I'm Esther Ann Paitler, and I'm a consumer who lives at Kathy Lucan's Independent Living Center in Spark Hill. Supervisor Andy Stewart, I want to thank you for your incredible email to me on a traffic safety advisory board.
You're welcome.
I feel it's important for people to have safety. Last weekend, there was an accident on 340. I would like to know why no one put in speed bumps. It might help people to slow down when they're driving. Last Wednesday morning, there was a car accident. I saw tires laying on the ground, 2 metals from a car. That's why I'm talking about safety. I think it's important to have our police come out and patrol. And by putting in speed bumps, it might help. People speed and they don't think. We have consumers who walk up, who work at Stop and Shop, and they fear their lives because of people speeding and they don't stop. They think it's funny and they just keep on going. I want to know what's going to be done about that. This is a matter of our consumers feeling safe. Time and time again, they've complained to me. They also want to know what is going to be done about getting speed bumps. I'm sure that you can get money from a fund balance.
I agree with you. Pedestrian safety is
I have
important.
to stand in the middle of the road to get on a bus to go to the mall, to go to work in Nanuet. And it is scary because we don't have a regular bus stop where people can sit down and feel comfortable waiting for the buses. I have reached out to Braga and have heard nothing.
Well, thank you for mentioning that tonight.
I
Ms.
also
Baitler.
would like to thank Jim Dean and Stephanie Muno, who have told me that next week on Wednesday, they will proceed to go out to bid for the sidewalks. I also, Andy, you said we were going to get a streetlight project. I've heard nothing.
We've talked about that one before.
It shouldn't take 6 months. Every time I hear that, I feel that it's being neglected.
Well, thank you for the reminder, Esther, and also congratulations on the sidewalk on Route 340 going to bid, and also to the Highway Department, because I know that so much work has gone into getting that.
They have
to the-
worked extremely hard.
That's
Please.
absolutely correct. And thank you so much for coming to thank them tonight.
Jim Dean and Stefan have been incredible.
I think we
I
all
get
agree with you on that one.
straightforward answers, and they work collaboratively.
Absolutely. I would like to get the next speaker up here. Thank you very much, and also happy birthday.
Thank you.
Well done. The next person signed in is Heather Hurley.
Well, thank you, Lester. You're my favorite now.
Hi, Heather Hurley. I'm back. Just a couple of things. The DEC is still deliberating whether or not to grant a public hearing for a Nelitex Part 360 solid waste permit. Their decision may not be made until June 30th. If they do not grant a public hearing and issue a solid waste permit for a Nelitec, then will this manufacturing ban apply to them as well if they start construction? Also, why are some of you reappointing members and chairmen to the town planning and zoning boards who intentionally sat up there on January 21st, 2015 and knowingly deceived and lied to the public? Why would any of you vote to reappoint chairmen who have no respect for the public that put you into office? The triumvirate report, quote unquote, was flawed, continues to be flawed, and yet it still remains on the town website as if it were truly independent. Tell the public how you can justify that this report is independent when Len Feroldi, who's a voting member of the ZBA, and representative from Triumvirate, Eric Feroldi, are related. Well, none of you have disputed that fact, and Councilman Valentine, all you could say to me back in March is how I attacked him by saying that. Well, how is getting the truth out to the public about the deception the zoning board displayed on January 21st an attack? How can you justify reappointing a chairman to the ZBA when it was discovered through foiled emails that he was requesting to add certain information into that independent triumvirate report? This is not a question of whether or not these people are some of the nicest people, but it is rather a question of whether some of these people who sit on these boards, appointed by this town board and are a reflection of this town board, are doing what is in the best interest of public health and safety for the people in Orangetown and are making informed, responsible decisions. It's a question of whether you all approve of the way some of these people sit on these boards and deceive the public into thinking that reports are independent and trustworthy when released 2 hours before the zoning board decision on January 21st. Amongst other issues, I would also recommend either Mr. Mike Mandel or Bob Dell to be appointed as a chairman of the planning board. Also would like to know how many other interviews were conducted for the zoning board and how many resumes were reviewed for that as well. And one last question, why were none of you, with the exception of Supervisor Stewart, at the Stop and Nelitec rally last night? Clarkstown Councilwoman Shirley Lasker even came out to support our movement. Where were all of you? Tell the people here tonight and those watching at home why the four of you chose not to show up and support the people of Orangetown and Clarkstown who have been doing your jobs for you for the past 7 months. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Wertheim, are you still here? Okay, good.
Good evening, Amy Wertheim, Pearl River. First, I would like to thank the town board for making the decision tonight to support BTX and to also further look into Denise's suggestion and Mike Mandel's suggestion. I thought that was a cooperative effort, and I do appreciate it, so thank you. I concur with Heather Hurley. Reappointing Kevin Garvey and Dan Sullivan is a disservice. If they want to stay on the board, but as chairman, they don't have any leadership skills. And chair people are usually leaders, and they are not. I do heavily support Robert Dell being reappointed. I think he shows a lot of leadership, and I think he shows a lot of appreciation of what we are trying to accomplish here. They listen to us, Mike and Robert both listened to us week after week and asked the questions of Anelitech at those meetings. The other board members asked little to no questions whatsoever, and that greatly disturbs me. So I'd like to reiterate that I do not feel Dan Sullivan or Kevin Garvey deserve to be chair people.
Tom Sullivan?
I'd say the same thing about Dan Sullivan and Kevin Garvey. I think their actions during this whole fiasco have been reprehensible. They're just basically rubber stamped everything. Didn't ask any important questions, and Dan Sullivan's interaction with Triumvirate and the foiled emails. It's not just that he shouldn't be reappointed as chair. He should be asked to step down, really. And I think the same thing goes for Michael Bozzacco. I don't think he should be approved. I think he should be rejected as well. He didn't ask any relevant questions. All he did was rubber stamp it, like the rest of them did. And I'd like Mr. Feroldi to publicly come out and state whether or not his relative works for Triumvirate or not. Thank you.
Sean? I can't read the last name. Okay, it's Murphy.
I heard enough tonight.
Okay. Cynthia Anselmo?
Hi, Cynthia Anselmo, Palisades, New York. I know my issue is not as complex or as critical as the Anelitech matter, but I fully support these families. And it seems to me that they're having a fight, and I really don't think when it comes to the health and well-being of the families that there should be a fight at all. So I just want you to know I do support you. Now, my issue, on the other hand, to me is also very important, and I was here at the last meeting, and at that time it was suggested that there was going to be a workshop to come up with some sort of a solution or resolution or whatever. And I just would like to know how far along or what's the process on that. Has there been a workshop? Is this going to be something that's going to take another year to come to a head? I mean, I don't know. What is the process now?
Just very briefly, there was research done that you provided.
Okay.
The Orangetown Environmental Committee reviewed that and made a proposal for certain changes to town code that would reflect the prohibitions against invasive species that the state of New York has.
Okay.
The town board heard those comments, and I would like to set a workshop discussion so that we can bring that information together and see if there is some measure that the town can take to prevent the spread of this invasive species, among others.
Okay,
So that's your answer to where we're at.
Okay, well, when do the workshops get scheduled is my next question then.
There will be in early July, if you look at the town board calendar.
Okay, well, so
July
that would be
7th
an
is a
issue that
workshop,
would be on
and they
it.
alternate between workshops and regular meetings where we have public comment, and then workshops where staff work things out and back and forth.
Okay, just one more comment. I work at a local elementary school, and the kids are so knowledgeable there. So much so that I was blown away when they told me, "Oh, I saw you on TV." So now, of course, tomorrow when I go in, they're going to say, "I saw you on TV." They're always asking me, "So what's happening? What's happening with this?" And I have no answers for them. So now at least they'll hear that come July 7th or whenever the workshop is, that this issue is going to be brought up. So they'll know that eventually things do get done in the town, because for a while there they were thinking that things weren't getting done. So, all right, just wanted to bring that to the point that we have all these young children, even at elementary age, watching what's going on in the town. So let's do right by them too. Let them know that things do get done.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. That completes our list of sign-ins. By raise of hands, is anybody else here to speak to the town board? I see one way in the back on the right with the white T-shirt. Or actually, not a T-shirt. If you could just say your name and where you live.
Hi, my name's Joanne DiLorenzo. I live in Pearl River.
I'm here tonight as a private citizen and as a member of RUSH, Residents United to Save Hillside. We've been fighting with the planning board for the past 7 years, so I know what you're talking about. So I'm here tonight to ask you to vote for Bob Dell to be reinstated on the planning board. Mr. Dell's experience as a research laboratory director and as a professor in green engineering research makes him a well-qualified candidate for the board. As you know, he has been on this planning board for many years, including holding the position of former chairman, and is familiar with the processes, the issues, and the community concerns. Bob's attention to detail can, and in many cases does, keep the town from being sued. He has dedicated many years to the town of Orangetown, not only as a member or chairperson of the planning board, but also on ACABOR. It's not every day that a citizen is so committed to providing so many community services, and I'm sure this board knows well, being public servants themselves, that it's a thankless volunteer position, and oddly enough, he wants it, so what is the logic in not appointing him? So please do reinstate Bob Dell. Thank you.
Thanks for the comment. Anybody else in the purple, please?
Hi, my name is Jean Davin. I'm a Pearl River resident. And I just want to say that I can't believe that after 7 months, we are all still sitting here taking so much time and energy from everybody discussing Anelotech. I think we have to go back in our heads and just take it back to the basics and say, does a chemical plant belong in a residential neighborhood? No. That's what it comes down to. I think we all have to say that, and we all need to contemplate that in our heads. And it doesn't belong here. It doesn't belong. I am all for business, to bring business to the community, but not a chemical plant. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Raise of hands. Anybody else here to speak for public comment? Mr. Paness.
I want to thank you, Andy Stewart, for showing up last night at the rally and for your support to helping us keep poisonous chemicals out of our neighborhoods. I also want to thank Michael Mandel for his getting up and speaking, first and foremost, about seeing through the Anelotech shade, and also his comments about OMM and the fact that their rigging of their requirements. It's come to my understanding that you folks might be considering lowering the requirements, where whatever it's supposed to be 85%, I understand in order to accommodate friends of friends, you may want to reduce the number. Another disgrace of this town, unfortunately. Let the children play. Make sure it's Orangetown residents that are playing on the fields that are paid for by tax dollars. Let the 15% people come from somebody like my daughter from Nanuet to play, but stick to your arrangements. If you sell it to them on its 85%, that's what it stays. You don't change it midstream to accommodate big business. Secondly, the definition of independent from Webster's is free from outside control, not depending on any other authority. Unfortunately, the triumvirate report was not independent. And unfortunately, it's the people and the good work of John Tormey to foil the documents that showed that Dan Sullivan was in cahoots with writing the report. So the problem I have is they didn't know at the time that the documents would be foiled. None of you knew that that was coming. And there were other things that were foiled as well as the relationship with the RBA, Hector May, Al Samuels, who are puppeting and telling people what to do. The friendships that these people have that are bringing this company to this town, that are going to poison children. Stand up for what's right for the people. All of you, stand up and keep the poison out of a residential neighborhood 400 feet from children's homes. It's clear that the emails went back and forth with Dan Sullivan that told them, you need to add this so a layman's person can understand. Things like a lawnmower. You need to add in things like in respect to a lawnmower that people will understand. That's where the lawnmower came from the email, wherever he was coached to put that in. That's where the whole Anelitech, it's just a lawnmower. Right, Mrs. Sildusky? It's a lawnmower. We're going to be breathing a lawnmower. Unfortunately, the corruption, the calibration, just the fraud that's gone on here with this whole process is disgraceful. And how some of you sleep at night with this, I have no idea. This is a benzene manufacturing plant that does not belong a half a mile from my home and certainly does not belong downstream where people have wells that are going to be drinking the residue. You want to say it's safe? Put it in writing, Mr. Davini. You can't put it in writing. You said that half an hour ago. How could you possibly know it's safe? Because it's not safe. Do not be the fools of the town allowing these people to poison our children. Thank you.
All right, I see a hand raised in the far rear, right-hand side. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to get back to the voting that's going to happen this fall. I think it's very important that everyone understands and knows that this fall, when you do go out to vote, party lines should not be taken into account. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, independent, conservative, whatever it is, what the people need to vote for is someone who's going to put the community first and foremost. Republican issues, Democratic issues, independent, conservative, for me, have no place in local community politics. And it's more about who's going to put the community at the top of their list and who's going to say, I am for the people. So this fall, when you are looking for a candidate, make sure you look for a candidate who has courage, who has integrity, and who is going to be the champion of the people. And I don't see any of those candidates up front. Also, Mr. Valentine, when you sit there and say, I want an independent and I want someone else, I mean, I'm going to defer to these gentlemen. They're much, much smarter than I probably ever will be, probably a lot smarter than you. And I would tend to believe these gentlemen. I'm going to believe these guys when they sit there and say, this is not good, because they have the degrees, they have the knowledge, and I trust these gentlemen that they have the interest of the community first. They're not getting anything out of this. I'm not going to believe those gentlemen because they have a vested interest, a monetary interest. So I'm probably going to believe the guy who really has the community first. So let's be sure that this fall we look for a candidate and we listen to people who have the community at heart and not big business. I'm not going to lower residency requirements because I'm an OMM guy. I'm not going to vote for these guys because I'm a business Republican guy. No, I'm going to stand for the community. I'm going to do right by the community because that's what you should do. You do the right thing because it's the right thing to do and not because it's in your political best interest. Thank you.
That was certainly well said, like many of the comments tonight. Is anybody else here to speak to the town board? Seeing no hands raised, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing, public portion? Move from Divany, second over here from Moore. All in favor say aye. Well, so much has been put on the table by the public comments, and I reiterate my request that when you have very specific information, if you please bring a handout or email it or something so that we can keep track of it. The opposition to Anelitech and the chemical production is obvious. I support that. We've had a lot of work over the last 6 or 8 months reviewing and trying to see how these decisions are made by the planning board and zoning board and proposing corrective action, and we'll continue to work on that. I agree that Michael Mandel is a great planning board member, and so is Bob Dell. On the question of the appraisal for the area down by Lot 1, I agree that the involvement of Mr. Beckman would seem like a violation, at least in common sense anyway, of the professional ethics of the appraiser, because he has a relationship with OMM, which has a relationship with Alta Sports. That apparently wasn't noticed when the tax assessor put the appraisal out, and actually we discussed it after I noticed it, and I think others, and it's, in my mind anyway, the appraisal is a piece of information, and it's not, because of that appearance of conflict anyway, it has limited value as an appraisal, but it doesn't tell us what to do. It just gives us information about the site, and it's unfortunate that that relationship exists because it throws the appraisal into question. It's the appraisal of Lot 1, which is the land where the aquatics pool company offered to buy, and which we also had proposals for residential development. And the town board needed to know, where to start in terms of what the valuation is. And the assessor had an appraisal done, in this case by an outside contractor, and then it became apparent that there's a relationship there, which is, in some people's book anyway, questionable, and maybe in others not. But in my book, it leads to unfortunately, to the perception that the appraisal wouldn't be really valuable or valid. So if we go forward with that sale, I think we're going to need another appraisal. I'll leave it at that. We'll move forward with the bamboo question and collect more information about that, and see if we can chart a course towards a reasonable approach. And I would hear from other town board members now as far as any responses you want to make to public comment. I know a lot of information was put on the table. Over here.
I've just got one comment. Ms. Hurley had made comment that I had something to say about Len Feroldi. Well, I know Len Feroldi my whole life. Len Feroldi is one of the biggest volunteers in all of Blauvelt. He is a member of the Lions Club. He does tons of work at St. Catherine's, and he could be probably the most honest person I ever met in my life. So that was all I said to you, that I impeccably stand behind Len Feroldi because I know him, and I know him for 28 years. And he is a good, community-minded guy who only does stuff for others, and probably the most giving guy I've ever met in my life. And I'm just telling you that again because my comments sometimes get taken out of context a little bit in the ranting and raving, and I still stand behind Mr. Feroldi.
Tom, any comments? Over here? Responses or comments? I have a proposal for a 5-minute recess from Councilman Divany. I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Or take a quick break, then we'll come back to continue the town's business. Okay, folks. Everybody, we're gonna get back to work here. Thought it was a nice idea to call a recess. We have. Thank you very much, Esther. All right, folks who are staying, stay. Folks who are leaving, safe trip home. Thanks for coming. Make a motion we had a motion for a recess. Motion to end the recess.
Second.
Second from Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, see where we left off here.
Number 5.
Okay, we are talking about land use board reappointments or appointments. There are 1 or 2 positions where the terms are up or there's a vacancy, and these resolutions address that. We do it every year. It won't be long before we're interviewing and doing it all over again next year. Number 5 is to reappoint to the Architectural Board member Blythe Yost, whose term was up. Moved from Divany. Do I hear a second? Troy, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. This is number 6, is also Akabor reappointing Paul Papay. Do I hear a motion? I'll make the motion for Paul Papay. Do I have a second? No second for Paul Papay. Do we have no second?
I'll make a motion.
For second?
Bruce Jensen, to appoint Tim Zakabor.
All right. We got some stuff going on that I wasn't aware of. So
Jensen
I'm not sure where
Jr.?
he is now. He's on the golf committee, right? So
No.
he can, no,
His
where's
son,
Bruce?
Bruce Jensen Jr. came in for an interview,
Right.
and I will second that.
All right, so we have a new resolution here.
It's an engineer.
You're out of order.
Excuse me. All right, so the resolution to appoint Paul Papay failed, did not get a second. We have a new resolution proposed by Dennis Troy to appoint Bruce Jensen. Do I hear a second on that?
Junior.
Bruce Jensen Jr. Charlie, are you getting that? Bruce
Yep.
Jensen Jr. Can we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Councilman Divany,
Yes.
Councilman Valentine,
Yes.
Councilman Moore,
Bruce Jensen's a young man in the construction industry. He'd fit in very well in the Akabor, so yes.
oh, sorry, Dennis, I did that wrong.
It's okay.
Sorry. When you said, did you get that, I should have just said, no. All right, sorry about that. I am actually going to ask you, Dennis, the answer from you, Councilman Moore, was?
Yes.
Aye. Sorry about that, Dennis. And how do you vote?
Yes, Bruce Jensen is an engineering graduate, BS degree, and he lives in Blauville.
And
Not
Sup-
Palisades, but
And Supervisor Stewart?
I vote no to that. I think Paul Papay has yielded excellent service. His credentials as an engineer are important. He's also someone who comes to every other planning-related training that's ever been offered on the comprehensive plan and other activities. And I'm disappointed that he isn't being reappointed. Whatever the qualifications of Mr. Jensen, which I'm sure are admirable, I don't think it makes sense to push Mr. Papay out.
Do you remember who this was 5-0?
Yeah, that was Divany, seconded by Andy.
All right. Item number 7. This is the appointment to the Architectural Review Board to fill a vacancy of member Brian Atchison.
Moved.
Move from
Second.
Divany, second from Moore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Who's vacancy?
Number 8 is for the chair of ACABOR, the reappointment of Jill Feldstein.
Go ahead, Dennis.
We have a motion from Troy and a second from
Second.
Moore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to the Historic Areas Board of Review. For a minute, we have item number 9, the reappointment of Larry Bucarelli. Do I hear a motion for that?
Moved.
Move from Moore, second from Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Here we have number 10, the reappointment of Bob Dell to the Planning Board. I'm happy to make a motion for that. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
From Valentine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, the motion passes. Number 11 is a motion to reappoint Kevin Garvey as the Planning Board Chair. Do I hear a motion for this?
yeah, I'll make it.
From Troy, is there a second for that?
Second.
From Divany, roll call vote, please.
On a roll call, Councilman Troy,
Yes,
Councilman Divany,
Yes.
Councilman Valentine,
Yes.
Councilman Moore,
Yes.
and Supervisor Stewart.
No. Number 12 is the reappointment of ZBA member Michael Bosco. Do I hear a motion for that?
Moved.
Move from Divany, second. Second from Troy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Congratulations to Mr. Bosco. Number 13, this is the reappointment of the zoning board alternate member for Len Feroldi. Do I hear a motion for that?
I make a
From
motion.
Valentine, do I hear a second?
second.
From Moore, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Number 14 is the reappointment of ZBA Chair Dan Sullivan. Do I hear a motion for that?
Moved.
From Divany, second. From Troy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We have,
I want to stop, just one second. all right?
we have
I've
some
talked
discussion.
about this before, I'm going to talk about it again, in terms of our boards. All right, again, most of these people, including whether Bob Dell or Joe Felstein or Danny Sullivan or Kevin Garvey, Mike Bosco, I voted for all these people. I voted for them all. And I'll give Dan Sullivan as an example. One of the reasons I put Dan Sullivan on was because people at the time were finding that the zoning board were not treating people well. They would ask people, you want an addition on your house? Oh, you're having more children? How many kids do you have, and why do you need, more room? And this can be, other people can document this, all right? He was put on in order to have a better understanding of the people. Now, one of the things I'd still say about Danny Sullivan, I went to the zoning board meetings. I was there, the first one in October, when all this started coming up. And if you think it's easy, standing, whether it's a zoning board or a planning board. Zoning board is a adversarial board. You're looking for something different than the law, all right? It's not easy running those meetings, and not just, dealing with Anelitech, but dealing with anything. The people who do these things, the planning board, the zoning board, the ACA, they get a couple $1,000 is what they get in order, these are paid boards, all right? But they're members of our community who happen to do a very good job. They really do. And I've said this all along, that this town is the way it is because of the people who've been on these boards through the years. They don't let companies in here, despite what several of the critics here tonight say. It's not done without careful decision-making. Are they right all the time? Maybe not. But this town is not Ramapo. This town is not Nyack. This town is not Haverstraw.
Nyack is in
You
this
moved,
town. Go ahead, finish your statement. Being from
Anybody-
Nyack, I
anybody
think it's
who's gone
important to
through-
remember that
anybody
Nyack
who's
is actually
gone
part of
through the
Orangetown.
Nyack planning board or the zoning board, that's not a pleasant experience. It's not, all right? It's a thing where the reason why some of you people moved to this town, you moved to the town, whether it's Pearl River, Blauvelt, Palisades, or whatever, because it's been a great town historically. Do we have some bumps in the road? Yes, we have some bumps in the road. But these people, I believe in them 100%, even though some of them have been pilloried here for the last couple of months. And that's why I nominated them in second. And I'll stand by that.
And I think we had that vote, so moving on, number 15 is the appointment of, to fill a vacancy on the Traffic Advisory Board, which is also a really important committee. And that's for Lisa, and I don't know exactly how to pronounce her last name. Shoemate, okay. Do I have a nomination for that from Paul Valentine, second from Dimony? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. That completes the boards and committees. Number 16 is, as discussed last week, the grant writer, Sylvia Welch, and the resubmission of our request for funding for the improvement of a site in Tapan where we can do a lot better with drainage and water quality than in the past. It's really a great opportunity. And just to say, we came very, very close to getting this grant last time, and the Environmental Facilities Corporation said, please reapply. You got a great chance. So I'll take a motion from Mr. Troy, a second from myself. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And also, thanks to our engineering department headed by Joe Moran, and our highway department from Jim Dean, and everybody working together. Stefan Muno is here as well, because these grants are incredibly tedious, but when you win, sometimes you can win big. And I appreciate the support on that. Number 17 is a certification of registration for sewer work to the Hauser Brothers. Do I hear a motion? Mitt Divany, second over here. Valentine, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Number 18 is the showmobile for the Halloween parade. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Divany, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 19 is showmobile for the Bergen Music Festival. Do I hear a motion for that one, please?
Moved.
From Divany, second from,
I'll second that. Just
Troy.
on that, the Bergen Music Festival is at the Masonic Campgrounds. I'm not big on music. I don't remember anybody since the Beatles, but there's a lot of great groups that are going to be there that Saturday and Sunday. And if you're around, it's just a terrific event. It's run by Joe Durso, who volunteers for every charity known to man here in Rockland County, but he's an Orangetown native. And his band, Joe Durso and the Stone Caravan, has toured with Bruce Springsteen, but he is in, and again, I don't remember what the charity is, but this charity associated with this Bergen Music Festival, because that's what Joe Durso does. So if you have free time, go to the festival, the 27th and 28th of June.
At the Coffin Campgrounds.
no, that's over at Masonic.
Oh, the Masonic, sorry.
One of those camps.
You're gonna get a lot of phone calls on that.
Actually, I don't think the resolution says the location, but they've got the showmobile, and it is at the Masonic. So all in favor say,
Sometimes when you make a mistake, it makes it even
It's
more
great.
emphatic where it's gonna be.
Okay, good.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and let's go listen to some great music. Okay, number 20 is the showmobile for the Nyack Mostly Music Concert Series. And I'll just note that they're being charged the usual rate. They had requested a discount on that. But, you know, as much as I'd love to be able to give a waiver and a discount, it seems like we need to be consistent from event to event. And, you know, whether that involves fee waivers for building department permits or anything else, if there's, you gotta stick to a fair rule. And in that case, I don't think it makes sense to waive part of the fees for the use of the showmobile, because it's gotta be taken down there and picked up and taken down there and picked up, and the cost to the town is just the same as anywhere else. So I do wanna do everything we can to support Nyack, but in this case, I don't think it makes sense to waive that
And
fee.
that's exactly why I pointed it out last week, Andy.
Thanks for pointing it out.
Thank you.
That's the way the resolution was written, and it was appreciated. So having said that, do I hear a motion for this
I'll
use of the
move
showmobile from Moore? Second from Divany?
Where
All in
is
favor,
this
say
from?
aye.
Where is
The ayes have it.
Where is that concert?
This is in Memorial Park in Nyack,
Right.
where there's
We
actually a
should
lot of
add
good
that
work
to
being
the-
done in the park to kind of renovate the gazebo and make a nice place for performances. The concerts are free. It's a lot of fun down by the Hudson River, and just another wonderful opportunity in Orangetown. Number 21 is the approval of school resource officer training class for Terrence Hutmacher to attend. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second? Second from Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Number 22 is the nomination of Martin Fogarty from the civil service list to the position of police officer, full-time, pending completion of the certification process and a satisfactory background investigation.
I'll move it.
Motion from Moore. Do I hear a second? Over here, Valentine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Number 23, again, the recommendation from the chief of police, the nomination of Mark T. Durney from the civil service list, pending completion of background certifications and so on and so forth. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second? From Divany, all in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Dennis, I'll give you the next one. Didn't mean to go so fast sometimes. Number 24 is the approval of police officer Shane Curran. Same story. I'll make a motion for that. Do we have a second over here from Dennis Troy? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Number 25 is the acceptance with regret of the resignation and retirement of longtime town employee Helen Schwartzler from the police department.
Chief, how many years did you work here?
39 and a half years in police records.
39 and a half years, so thank you, Ms. Schwartzler. Do I hear a motion for this resolution? From Troy, one over here, a second from Valentine. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We also have a retirement in the sewer department, maintenance mechanic 2, Bernard Moore. Mauer, thank you. And who would like to make a motion for accepting with regret?
Moved.
Moved from Troy, second from Divany. All in favor say aye.
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 How many years, Joe? You know?
38 or 39 years, so that's a lot of service to the town of Orangetown. So we thank him for that. Number 27, new business. This is from the Highway Department. Folks are pretty well familiar with the revitalization project in the downtown. And this is upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Highways to award the work bid to lowest qualified bidder, which is Gemrose Utilities, for a little over $250,000. Do we have a motion for this?
Yeah, I'd like to move that. That's been a long time coming.
Second.
And congratulate Jimmy on finally bringing it to fruition.
We have a motion from Dennis Troy, a second from Tom Divany. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thanks are definitely due to the Highway Department on that one and engineers. It's quite a process getting a $250,000 project set up and contracted out. We have our Finance Director Jeff Bensick with the town audit review.
Okay, the audit for tonight's town board meeting consists of 3 warrants for a total of $810,000. The first warrant consists of 7 vouchers for $9,500 and was for project graduation and a 207C payment. The second warrant consists of 1 voucher for $3,100, was for a bridge survey. The third warrant consisted of 257 vouchers for $798,000. Items of interest, number 1, Applied Golf, $59,000 for the Broadacres contract. Number 2, Blue Hill Golf Course, LLC, $20,000 for the Blue Hill Pro Shop. Number 3, Capasso, $48,000 for recycling. Number 4, Deluxe Sales and Service, $170,000 for highway equipment. That's bonded money. Number 7, Highway Rehab Corp., $126,000 for heat scarification for highway repairs.
What is scarification?
I think Jim Dean would be a better representative to answer that question.
You want to fill us in?
Recycling the pavement, they heat it, scarify it, and relay it.
That's what scarifying is.
That's what it is.
Number 8, Joleb Contracting, $62,000 for the old Hunt Road Pump Station demolition. That was also part of the bond. Number 15, Siemens, $11,000 for the performance contract. Number 16, Sprague, $12,000 for fuel. Number 18, the State Comptroller, $31,000 for justice fines. And number 20, Village Construction, $15,000 for concrete crushing. Any questions on the audit?
Was the concrete from the demolition of the pump, the old sewer treatment facility at the Hunt Road? Is that what we were crushing concrete for, or was it something else?
I don't know. Let me.
Jim, do you know? Well, we spent money on crushing.
That's the crushing concrete that we pick up on the sidewalk repairs.
Okay, from sidewalk repairs. Got it.
Part of our recycling program, everything that we pick up.
Can be reused.
Yeah, that was all in the highway, not in the sewer.
Okay. Joe? That's included in that price. Right. That's great. I know that really was, as Dennis was pointing out, there was a hazard up there with those old kind of lagoons with partially filled with water, and it's good that they've been taken care of. Don't have to worry about anybody falling in.
We're done with the regular agenda.
Do you need a motion to? Or we just have this? Yeah.
Move down the order.
Second on the audit. Do I hear any opposition to that? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. I had the second. Tom
Tom made.
resolved the.
Andy seconded.
Well, originally, I was gonna bring up this item for tonight, but I think we should just put it off until the July 7th workshop. But I have circulated to the councilman and supervisor a new town chapter term limits. So I have put that out there. I think we should discuss it. I think we should be limiting the terms for supervisor and councilman in the town of Orangetown. And I will provide a copy of this new chapter to anyone who wants to look at it prior to the July 7th.
Is this, have you have any corrections to this?
Yes, I'll get you the corrections.
Okay,
But I just did say it's for councilman and supervisor.
okay.
That's about it.
Will you be making obviously there's a lot of thought that goes into a proposal like this. Will you be making a presentation? Should we schedule that for the 7th on sort of why this policy makes sense for the town? And
I think we need to make sure we circulate new members into the town board. It's that simple. I don't, that's my proposal. You can be for it, you can be against it. It's up to you.
there's some definitely. I'm neither for nor against. I certainly have a lot of questions, and I'm sure members of the board will as well. So I'm curious if there's intent to actually have any sort of presentation related to this,
No,
or you feel like this is complete and you just want to see it.
Clarkstown did it recently. I think the town of Orangetown should do it.
Okay.
It's that simple.
So would you like this to be a discussion item for the workshop on July 7th?
Yes, maybe even potentially putting it out there for a public hearing in August or September.
All right, well, I look forward to seeing that discussion then. Any other items for discussion, consideration, workshopping on July 7th? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to close this meeting. Do I have a second? We do have adjournments.
I have one additional one, too.
The Nyack community was really rocked and saddened by the passing of Victor Overton, who was the superintendent of the DPW for many years, a member of the volunteer fire department. The Pilgrim Baptist Church was just overflowing with firefighters and police officers and townsfolk and DPW people. So just noting the passing of Victor Overton and his condolences to his family.
John Murphy, or Buddy Murphy as he was known in Blauvelt, he's a Gold Star father. His son, Michael Murphy, perished in the year 2000 as a Marine Corps test pilot. John, or Buddy Murphy, and his wife Annie have resided in Blauvelt for basically their entire lives. They're really good community members, members of the Lions Club. Buddy was a Korean War vet and a very honorable guy, a retired New York City police officer. Just a quiet guy, but had a presence when he walked into a room. A really honorable guy who served both his community and his country. He'll be missed.
We're also remembering Irene Davidson and Grizzy Tallman. Would anybody like to speak in memory of these individuals this time? And Tom, you had yes.
Maybe just a minute. Gizzy Tallman. He was a DPW director at Paramount for years.
Right.
Basically, a lot of people in villages don't realize what they have when they have guys like Victor Overton and Gizzy. They live there, they work there, they do everything. Middle of the night, some days, anytime somebody calls them. And that's a bit of tradition with those DPW directors, and they really are missed.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Any other memorializations, Tom?
Robert Golish, Golisch. He lived in the Orangetown section of Nanuet for a long time. He was a great neighbor, a good man, kept his property and pride in his neighborhood. And more importantly, he spent his few years over in the South Pacific in World War II, basically during the invasion of Japan, which certainly wasn't a picnic, even though the fighting was over, supposedly. But we lost another World War II vet.
All right. Well, in the memory of these townspeople who have passed, I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I hear a second? From Divany, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Have a safe trip home.